Okay, today we're looking at the vitamins and minerals, or what we call micronutrients. You can find some further information in chapters 10, 11 of the book Nutrition for Dummies, and also chapters 10, 11, and 13 in Understanding Nutrition. So some of the things we need to focus on is our ability to be able to tell the difference between different types of vitamins. So we've got some that are fat soluble and some that are water soluble. Okay, there are about 14 essential vitamins and about 16 essential minerals. So these are the vitamins and minerals we need to maintain health. So we're not going to look at every single vitamin and every single mineral, but we'll look at 5 vitamins, being vitamin A, B1, C, D, and E. And we'll look at 5 minerals: calcium, iron, iodine, and sodium and potassium. I've got those in brackets because we've already covered those in water balance and electrolytes. All right, so we've already covered the macronutrients, the carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and water. And now we're looking at our micronutrients, being the vitamins and minerals. There's also other things that we need as well. Now, in our Western diet, we're often getting too much of these, too much of the macronutrients, and not enough of our micronutrients, our vitamins and minerals. So it's a little bit like in case study 1, where Bruce is eating a lot of this sort of fast food, but not consuming sufficient vitamins through vegetables and fruits. Now, as long as we're consuming foods from the major food groups, your grains, fruits, vegetables, dairy products, meat and protein products, we should be able to get all of the micronutrients that we actually need, so all the vitamins and minerals. So initially we're going to look at vitamins, and then later on we'll look at the minerals. And if we start off by comparing our vitamins to our macronutrients, so one of the big differences are the amounts that we need. So with the carbohydrates, fats, proteins, we rely on these to build our bodies, provide us with energy. So we need a fair amount of these, so they're measured in grams. Whereas the vitamins and also the minerals, we only need a very small amount. So the amount that we need is measured in micrograms. So vitamins are organic, they're essential, it means we can't make our own. They are found naturally in food. If we lack a certain vitamin, you will end up with a deficiency, which might actually lead to a chronic disease. And then if we reintroduce that vitamin, we can then restore health again. So the link between a lack of vitamins and the development of chronic disease has been known for hundreds of years. So here we can see, a lack of the vitamin C, leading to scurvy in these sailors that haven't consumed fresh fruit for months. So here we can see why they're called micronutrients. So in this example here, we've got the vitamins and minerals. The vitamins are only composing 0.005% or 1.48 micrograms. So only a very small amount of vitamins and minerals are actually required. Okay, vitamins are classified as either fat soluble or water soluble. So the fat soluble ones are vitamin A, D, E, and K. We absorb those through the digestion of fatty acids, so they're coming through initially through the lymphatic system. And then we've got a whole series of water-soluble vitamins. So we've got vitamin C, the range of different B vitamins, and choline. So they're all coming in dissolved in water as we absorb them. So when we're consuming lipids, at the same time, we're also consuming some of these fat-soluble vitamins. And as they're fat-soluble, they're actually stored in our fat layers in our body. And some of these vitamins can actually become toxic if we consume large amounts. Now, all chemicals are potentially toxic if we consume extremely large amounts, including vitamins. So there's an optimal level of vitamins we should be consuming. If we have too much, particularly if you have these fat-soluble ones, they can actually be stored in your fat layers and they can actually become toxic. Now, if we don't have enough of the particular vitamin, you can actually end up with a deficiency, as we saw with the vitamin C and scurvy. If you have too much, you can actually become quite ill, and then sometimes can actually lead to death. So the other group of vitamins are water soluble, so they're dissolved in foods such as fruits and vegetables, grains. So the water soluble vitamins come in via the bloodstream. Being water soluble, they're not stored. Any excess in these water soluble vitamins are removed by the kidneys and then eliminated from the body in the form of urine. So here's a comparison of our water soluble vitamins and our fat soluble vitamins. So water soluble ones, they're dissolved in water, dissolved in the blood. Fat soluble ones, they're coming via consumptions of lipids, so they're coming in via the lymphatic system. Now we can't store the water-soluble vitamins, so they can't become toxic. Whereas we can actually store the fat-soluble vitamins in our fat layers, and over time, if you have too much, it can actually become toxic. As the water-soluble vitamins are not stored, we actually need to replace these every single day. So every day, for example, you need to get a fresh supply of vitamin C. Whereas the fat-soluble ones, because we're storing them in our fat layers, we don't have to consume that particular vitamin every single day. So for example, vitamin A, which is fat-soluble, you might be able to consume it once a week. All right, so we're not looking at all of the 14 essential vitamins. We're just going to look at some examples. The first example we're looking at is vitamin A. So why do you need vitamin A? Well, you need vitamin A for normal vision and for your immune function. And we need about 900 micrograms per day. Now you can get vitamin A from foods such as liver, or you can get a provitamin or precursor in the form of carotenoids from any of the yellowy orange foods, whether it's pumpkin, carrots, and then it's converted into vitamin A. If I don't get enough vitamin A, it can lead to night blindness or problems with your immune system. Remember, vitamin A is fat soluble, so if I have too much vitamin A, can end up with symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, can actually cause liver damage as well. Okay, next one's vitamin D. So you can see here vitamin D works with the mineral calcium and helps with the formation of our bones. We only need a small amount, 5-15 micrograms. So a good source would be fatty fish, things like sardines, salmon, or you could eat a food such as cereals or milk that's actually been fortified with vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is one of the vitamins that we can actually produce ourselves. So if we get sufficient sunlight, we're able to produce our own vitamin D. Now, if we don't get enough vitamin D, we can end up with rickets, which means they end up with very soft bones, and the children will be actually bow-legged. Having too much vitamin D is also a problem. You can end up with calcium deposits in your tissues. Next is vitamin E. We need vitamin E. It's one of the antioxidants, so it helps repair damaged cells. Here we need a little bit more, 15 milligrams. And it's found in foods such as walnuts and other nuts, and also in vegetable oils. If we don't have enough, our red blood cells will be damaged through hemolysis, and we could end up with a deficiency, anemic. And if you have too much, it could result in excessive bleeding. Okay, next we're going to look at some examples of some water-soluble vitamins. So we're going to look at vitamin B2 or riboflavin, and we're also going to look at vitamin C. So riboflavin, you can see it's part of the metabolic reactions for breaking down carbohydrates, amino acids, and fat. Need a small amount, 1.1 to 1.3 micrograms. As you can see, dairy products are a good source of riboflavin. If we don't have enough, you see problems with inflammation of mouth, tongue, eye disorders. It's water soluble, so the body tends to remove excess amounts so that we don't end up with toxicity. Okay, vitamin C. The artificial form is absorbic acid. So both types of vitamin C. Main role is as an antioxidant. As you can see, it's got a number of other roles, whether it's connective tissue, the immune system, the nervous system. The amount that we need, 75 to 90 micrograms. So here it says non-smokers, so it looks like the non-smokers need a little bit less. Very good source is obviously citrus fruits, oranges, lemons, but things like red peppers or capsicums are also very, very high in vitamin C. Deficiency in vitamin C leads to scurvy and can also lead to bleeding gums. Very unlikely that you're going to develop a vitamin C toxicity, but if you have a lot of supplements, so here we're talking about large amounts, 2,000 micrograms, potentially lead to problems like diarrhea and problems with your gastrointestinal tract. So we've got this table here that summarizes the various functions that the vitamins play in our body. So whether they're antioxidants or they help with blood clotting, help develop bone strength, involved in energy reactions, involved in growth, involved in supporting your immune system, or involved in various types of metabolism. Okay, we've already mentioned that some of the vitamins, such as vitamin E and vitamin C, act as antioxidants. There's also other nutrients that also will act as antioxidants, including minerals such as selenium, carotenoids, flavonoids from plants. Now, what these antioxidants do is that they repair what's called free radicals. Now, free radicals will develop, they're always developing in our bodies, particularly if we're exposed to pollution, nasty chemicals, smoking, excessive UV light. So these things can actually damage our cells. And if these free radicals are not repaired, potentially they could actually lead to things such as cancer. So it's important to repair the cells. So the antioxidants work by donating an electron to repair that free radical and return it back to the normal cell. All right, if you could please view this video on antioxidants. So it talks about the various vitamins and other compounds that act as antioxidants and how they actually repair some of those free radicals. Okay, we're focusing on vitamin B2 or riboflavin. This table here is showing us what all the other B vitamins do, so whether it's B1 or right through to B6. So most of them are actually involved in the metabolism reactions, so they're involved in breaking down either carbohydrates, fats, or proteins. So we see the energy is actually being supplied by the macronutrients, the fat, protein, carbohydrate, but the vitamin B complexes are actually involved in the reactions as coenzymes and help the reactions to actually occur, eventually breaking the compounds down into amino acids, fatty acids, and glucose, and at the same time releasing energy for our cells. Okay, best place to get your vitamins is from a natural source, so whether it's from an animal source or a plant source, and that's why they tell us to consume, 5 vegetables and 2 fruits every day. There are also synthetic versions available, which are being produced in laboratories, and these are sold as vitamin supplements. Okay, we're going to look at this term called bioavailability. So what this is telling us is sometimes the vitamin might be present in the food, but it might not be easily released from the food. So for example, down here we can see the fat soluble ones, because they're dissolved in the fat, they're actually less bioavailable than the water soluble ones. Also, vitamins in animal foods generally tend to be more bioavailable than the ones in plant foods. So sometimes the vitamins in plant foods are trapped in the fibers, in the cellulose, and it's difficult to actually release some of those vitamins. So here we're sort of looking at what happens to vitamins during storage and cooking of the food. So even though a food might actually contain a vitamin, if it's stored for a long period of time, or if we expose it to high temperatures or excessive UV light, we can actually start to break down those vitamins and we start to lose those vitamins. So ideally, to preserve the vitamin, what you want to do is either consume the food as fresh as possible, things like fresh fruits and vegetables, or if not, consume frozen vegetables, frozen fruits, which will have preserved the vitamins. All right, here we've got a table showing the percentage of vitamins that are lost during the processes of freezing, drying, cooking, draining. So for example here, vitamin A. So vitamin A, for example, you would find in carrots in the form of carotene. If I get that fresh carrot and I freeze it, I would only lose 5% of my vitamin A. If I get that same carrot and I dry it off, so drying would involve some heat, I'm losing half of my vitamin A. If I cook it, I'll lose 25%. If I cook it in boiling water and then drain that off, some of that vitamin A will be dissolved in the water, and as I drain it, I'm going to be losing up to 35% of that vitamin A. And we can see similar results for our other vitamins. So this is telling us to ideally consume the foods fresh to maintain the vitamins, or in most cases what you can do is freeze it, and that will only result in very minimal vitamin loss. Excessive heat will result in significant loss of vitamins. Okay, similar thing happens with the minerals. Again, consume the food fresh if you can. Again, when we're applying a significant amount of heat, we start to destroy some of the minerals as well. And again, if you boil the food in water, often the minerals then becomes dissolved in the water, and when you drain that water, you end up losing that particular mineral. This diagram is showing us how vitamins are lost from during processing of grains. So for example, if this was wheat grain, what they do is they'll mill it or they grind it up. At the same time, they remove the outer layer, remove the germ, so all you're left with is a starch. So most of the vitamins and minerals are actually either in the bran or in the germ. So in this example, again, we've got another grain. This time it's maize or corn, if you like. So that's containing significant amounts of vitamins and minerals. And as we process that maize, as we remove the bran or the outer layer, we start to reduce the number of vitamins and also reduce the number of minerals. And if we were also to take out the embryo or the germ, again, we're significantly reducing the numbers of vitamins and minerals. Okay, as vitamins and minerals are easily lost while food is being processed, the World Health Organization has recommended that manufacturers actually fortify the food, so they actually introduce various vitamins and minerals into the food. Now, these vitamins and minerals can be introduced into the food either by a process called enrichment or a process called fortification. Now, with enrichment, what we're doing here is just simply replacing the lost vitamins and minerals. So for example, if we're making a breakfast cereal, say making cornflakes, originally there would have been a whole lot of vitamins and minerals in the corn, and then as we heated it up, we've lost those vitamins and minerals, and so we're allowed to actually add them back in the process called enrichment. Now, the food manufacturer doesn't have to ask permission to add those vitamins and minerals back because they were there in the original product. In fortification, what's happening is they're adding micronutrients, vitamins and minerals into a food which didn't contain those vitamins and minerals in the first place. In this case, the food manufacturer needs to get permission to actually add those vitamins and minerals during the process of fortification. Here's some examples of foods that are enriched. So these foods would have coming from grains would have originally contained various vitamins and minerals, and so the manufacturers just simply replaced those missing vitamins and minerals. The only potential problem is now we've actually replaced natural vitamins and minerals, or natural vitamins, with probably artificial vitamins. Okay, these are examples of foods that have been fortified. So for example here, the salt doesn't normally contain iodine, but the government has actually requested that the food manufacturers add iodine into the salt to prevent problems such as goiter. Okay, another example of fortification would be products such as bread or flour, which has been fortified with folic acid. So folic acid is not normally in the flour or the bread, but in this case, the government has actually requested the manufacturers to put the folic acid in to prevent things such as spina bifida. So here we've got a table of examples of foods that have been fortified with various vitamins and minerals. So here we can see various countries across the world, including Australia, have requested that food manufacturers add folic acid, products such as flour and bread, to make sure that the products contain enough folic acid to prevent spina bifida. Okay, many countries across the world will fortify foods with iodine, particularly salt, to prevent the formation of goiter. Okay, please watch this video which discusses whether we actually need to use vitamin and mineral supplements. Okay, most of the time we get sufficient vitamins and minerals by eating a range of foods, particularly fruits, vegetables, whole grains, dairy products and meat products. However, sometimes you might actually need to supplement your diet. So here are some examples. So you've got poor eating habits, vegetarians, people are on diets, strict diets, medical problems, and so on. Okay, next we're looking at minerals. So this time we've got inorganic elements, so normally found in the earth's soil and water and so on. Not broken down. We saw when we looked at the electrolytes that some have got electrical charge. 16 different essential ones. We're going to look at just some examples. And again, these are measured in very small amounts. Okay, within the minerals, we've got what we call the major minerals, which we need in relatively large amounts, and then the trace minerals, which you need in relatively small amounts. So a good example of a major mineral we can see in our graph here is calcium, which we need for our bone structure. So we need a lot of calcium to have our skeleton and our bones. And at the other end over here, we've got a trace mineral, iodine. We only need a very small amount, and that small amount will actually prevent deficiencies such as goiter. Okay, we'll look at some examples. So with our minerals here, in this example here, we've got our sodium and potassium. I'm not going to talk too much about these because we've already covered these when we looked at the electrolytes and the water balance. So again, just a reminder, sodium and potassium, a very important role as electrolytes, in ensuring we got the correct water balance within the cells and outside the cells. Okay, we'll have a look at an example of a major mineral. We'll look at calcium. Its main function is development of our bones. Other functions include acid alkaline balance, transmission of information through our nervous system, and muscle contraction. So every day we need about 1,000 micrograms, and in older people they need about 1,200 micrograms to prevent osteoporosis. Okay, a good source of calcium would be from dairy products or from eating sardines. So you're eating the sardines with the bones, and that's got the calcium. If I don't get enough calcium, I might end up with a deficiency such as osteoporosis, which means I've got fragile bones. And then if I have too much calcium, it can cause problems with mineral imbalances, shock, and also problems with my kidneys. Okay, now we're going to look at an example of a trace mineral. So we need these in very small amounts. So we're going to look at iodine. Okay, main reason why we need iodine is to make sure that our thyroid hormones work correctly. We need a relatively small amount, 150 micrograms every day, and no more than 1,100 micrograms per day. So that's your upper limit. Normally we get this iodine either from eating seafood or typically from consuming salt that's had iodine added. If I don't have enough iodine, I can have problems with my thyroid glands, and it can lead to a goiter. Also, if I have too much of iodine, it can also lead to a goiter. Okay, next we're looking at iron. So the main function of iron is to being part of the hemoglobin in our red blood cells, so involved in transporting oxygen through our blood system. Need a very small amount, roughly nearly 8 micrograms per day for a male. You can see here females need more, 18 micrograms per day, because they have the menstrual cycle, so they lose a lot of blood during that menstrual cycle, and that needs to be replaced. Okay, best source of iron would be red meat, but you can also get it from vegetables such as spinach. Now, if I don't have enough iron, the red blood cells won't develop correctly, and I won't be able to transport sufficient oxygen, so I'll become anemic. And if I have too much, I will have various symptoms, including nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and potentially can eventually lead to death. Okay, so we've got 16 essential minerals carrying out various functions throughout our bodies. So some of the major ones are listed here: bone structure, things like calcium, fluid balance, sodium, potassium, nervous transmission, clotting of blood, acid alkaline balance, antioxidants, metabolism, growth. Okay, so it's, again, a graphic showing the various functions of the minerals. So where the minerals come from, so most of the foods we're consuming will contain some minerals. So some foods are better than others for particular minerals. So here we've got animal foods being good for things such as calcium and iron, and plant foods being particularly for minerals such as magnesium and manganese. Okay, as we mentioned previously, sometimes a food might contain a vitamin or mineral, but might not actually be bioavailable. So it might be actually trapped within the structure of that particular food, particularly plant products, trapped in various fibers and other compounds. And sometimes cooking the food will actually release that particular vitamin or mineral. Okay, minerals are chemicals. So just like any other chemical, if you have too much, it can actually become toxic. Very unlikely to become toxic by eating excessive amounts of food. More likely to happen if you're consuming, tablets or supplements which have high doses of these particular minerals. Okay, and thanks. Bye for now.